Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I've been talking a lot lately about some of the biggest mistakes I've made when it has come to decluttering and purging my closet. And one of the mistakes I've definitely been guilty of is falling into the trap of believing that only neutral colored clothing looks high-end, expensive, and luxe. Therefore, any colored clothing will inherently look very cheap in comparison. And because I felt that way, I ended up getting rid of so many pieces of clothing that dared to exist in a color other than a neutral shade. Today, I thought we could talk a little bit more about this ongoing battle between neutral colored clothing and colored clothing, why something looks cheap versus why it looks high-end, delve a little bit more into the mistakes I made and the thinking that was fueling those mistakes, and also talk to you about why my attitude towards colored clothing has changed. There has never been a shortage of YouTube videos, blog posts, Instagram reels extolling the virtues of why neutral colored clothing looks quiet luxury, looks high end, looks very luxe, therefore looks more expensive. In fact, I'm sure I've been guilty of saying the same exact thing on this channel because I really believed it. And while this line of thinking does have merit, because I do believe neutral colored clothing inherently does look very polished, very tailored, therefore more high end, therefore a tendency to look more expensive, I'm no longer agreeing with this ironclad judgment that if your clothing has color, it looks cheap. Okay, here's why my thinking has changed. I have seen black boots that look really cheap, and I've seen bold green winter coats that look really expensive. And it dawned on me that there was a reason for this. It had more to do with what that piece of clothing was made out of versus what color it was. So you guys know I love my natural fibers. So things like genuine suede, genuine leather, cotton, organic cotton, linen, silk, cashmere, wool, merino wool. Natural fibers to me just look more structured, therefore they have a little bit more polish to them versus synthetics like polyester, nylon, and acrylic. And because natural fibers just tend to look more structured and more polished, I believe that they do tend to look just naturally high-end, luxe, and more expensive. But when I look at clothing now, I'm no longer colorblind, if you will. Like, it matters less to me what color that piece of clothing is versus things like what's it made from, like we just talked about. But I'm also looking at things like the seaming. Are the seams even? Are they uneven? Do you see a bunch of loose threads like falling off of that garment everywhere you look? Also, what is the shape of that garment? In other words, does it actually have shape, or when you put it on, does it just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm wearing a potato sack. I look like I'm wearing a tent. Does it have any bit of tailoring to it at all to really conform to the curves of your body? These are the things that are informing my opinion as to whether or not a piece of clothing looks expensive or cheap versus just basing that worth, that value, solely on what color it is. The way I used to wear color also started to inform my opinion about colorful clothing looking cheap in comparison to neutrals looking more expensive. I really had no knowledge or education on how to properly pair two different colors together to make that outfit look more polished and certainly more cohesive. I had no concept of analogous colors, which are those colors that live next door to each other on the color wheel. So if you think about red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, back into red, the colors that live next door are considered analogous colors. So greens into blues, blues into purples, even purples into reds. Those are all considered analogous color combinations. The other correct way to pair color is through complementary combinations. These are the colors, again, if you're thinking about that color wheel, these are the colors that live across the street from each other. So like blue and orange, or even red and green. And while these definitely produce some pretty bold outfits, when you look at an outfit that embodies either one of these combinations, analogous or complementary, they really do have polish to them. And the reason they have polish is because it's a cohesive, matching color combination. And then another way I think color can look really expensive in luxe is by doing monochromatic outfits. But when I say monochromatic, I'm talking about wearing one color, but then just varying the shade of that color. So for example, if I wanted to step out wearing an all green outfit, instead of being like head to toe in a medium toned green, which there's nothing incorrect about it, for me to create a monochromatic outfit that has dimension, soul, depth, and interest, all I would do is wear like a medium green colored pant and pair it with a lighter green shirt and maybe a darker green jacket. So I'm wearing one color, monochromatic, but by varying the shade of the color, that's what gives my outfit dimension and a lot of personality without sacrificing polish. To me, this is important as I start considering adding more color back into my wardrobe, because it's not just this like throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks when it comes to wearing colors together. For me, it feels more cohesive and polished, pulled together if I'm leaning into these technical and proper combinations of bolder colors. So when it came to my admittedly frenzied purgings of my closet and decluttering my wardrobe over the past 3 years, in hindsight, I got rid of so many beautiful clothes, even if they were natural fibers, even if they were a little bit more expensive, simply because they dared to exist as a color versus clothing that was void of color, my neutrals. So I wanted to feel and look high-end, expensive, polished, all of the above. And I just really bought into the messaging and the mentality that if I wanted to look polished, high-end, quiet luxury, luxe, then I couldn't have any clothing in my wardrobe that was actually a color. In hindsight, when I was just hell-bent on buying as much fast fashion as I could get my hands on it, I would have zero thought, zero intentionality behind my purchases. It legit was, I see it, I want it, therefore I buy it. 90% of the time, I would never even wear it. And a lot of times I wasn't wearing it because I was buying these crazy colors that I didn't even like. I recall one time so vividly being at Old Navy and forcing myself to buy this dark purple sweater thinking, well, you don't have this color in your wardrobe and therefore you need it because it's absent. It never dawning on me that it wasn't in my wardrobe because I don't like that color. So when I bought it, I would force myself to try to wear it and I'd immediately take it off. It didn't feel like me. I didn't like the outfits I came up with that included that sweater. So therefore, I never wore it. It was a completely wasteful purchase. And I think experiences like that just also helped taint my attitude towards colorful clothing. So again, when it came to getting rid of those items during my declutters and my purges, those bright, bold colors were the first to go. But along with all those colors that I didn't like, I purged things that were comprised of colors I did like, again, simply for the fact that they had color to them and I didn't want my wardrobe to look cheap. Now when I'm thinking about color, it's no longer a matter of this looks cheap because it has color. This looks expensive because it is neutral. Worth and value in a piece of clothing to me has nothing to do what color it is. As I said, it has more to do with what it's made from. Does it have structure? That has far more weight and value in terms of the worth of that piece of clothing in my eyes versus just simply what color it is. So I hope you guys found this video interesting and useful. I hope at the end of the day, it perhaps liberated some of you from this mindset that you cannot own colorful clothing if you want to look high-end, expensive, luxe, whatever the case may be. I'd love to hear about some of your attitudes towards color, if you've had the same experiences as me, and if so, how you snapped out of it and why you started adding color back into your wardrobe. But in any event, thank you guys so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you're having a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.